Passionate, outspoken, insightful. Ariva Martin is an award-winning civil rights attorney, best-selling author, legal commentator, and America's advocate. Live from Los Angeles, this is the Special Report.
Good morning and welcome to our viewers in the U.S. and around the world. To kick off this morning's broadcast, do me a favor. Please share the show with your online friends or start a viewing party. And remember, post a comment or a question. We're going to be taking those questions later in our show. Your voice matters, and I want to hear from you this morning. It's Hot Topics Friday, and today we are talking about politics and pop culture with one of my favorite guests, host of KJLH's Public Affairs Morning Show, Dominique DiPria. Good morning, Dominique. How are you?
Good morning, Ariva Martin. Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here with you. You just always have got it going on.
Well, we were just together earlier in the week, so we have the advantage of being able to go to each other's shows and to spend some time together. So I'm super excited to have you here today because on Fridays, some Fridays at least, we do these hot topic shows where we just kind of run through what's happening in the news. And if you're like me, sometimes it's like your head is spinning because there's so much news and it's coming at you so quickly. And just as you're concentrating on one story, there's another story that's popped up. So we're going to try to tackle some of those big news stories that are really, have people talking. I would say around the water cooler, but since everybody's at home, nobody's really around the water cooler. But people are talking online, they're on social media, but these stories have captured the attention of the nation. And of course, the biggest story out there of all times, I'd say for the entire year has been Kamala Harris and that historic appointment of her to the VP ticket with former Vice President Joe Biden. And we were talking about it on your show. The nation's celebrating, people around the world are celebrating first African-American woman, first Asian American woman. So I just want to get your reactions. What did you feel and think when you heard that Kamala had been the appointee?
Well, it's a big moment. It's a big moment for Black women. It's a big moment for Indian American women. It is a big moment for politics and for the United States of America. And I think, of course, we can parse her policies and we can parse her background, but I really feel like at this time, we just have to give Black women our moment and our movement to celebrate, to be celebrated, and to understand that representation really does matter. It matters a lot. And as Alicia Garza said, it's up to us to put substance behind the symbol.
Yeah, I think that's so well said. I had a chance to be a part of a New York Times story. And ironically, a young woman who I consider like a surrogate, or not a surrogate, but like a play niece. I'm really close to her mom. And she has this great internship at the New York Times. So she's writing a story on, Kamala's appointment, and she's getting reactions from Black women. And, I'm a part of the story. And she asked me, what was I looking forward to the most in her candidacy and in her position as vice president. And I said, for me, I'm really excited about, we're going to have someone at the table, and they're not going to just be at the table. They're going to be at the head of that table. So when issues come up that are important to us, we're going to have a voice there. And I said, I'm going to be really looking for her to do just what you said, bring those substantive issues that matter to our community, to bring them to life. And then I'm looking for her to bring that big tent, that the Democrats always talk about, so that we can have more Latinx women, we can have more Asian women, we can have younger women, older women, Black women, brown, I want to see the rainbow in that cabinet. And I think with her there, that's going to happen. So that's what really gets me excited about having my friend in that position. So, but as much as we're celebrating, it wasn't 48 hours, hadn't passed before good old Donald Trump started pouncing, with his tired, racist, sexist tropes. We've heard them all before, but I want to play this video and I want to get your reaction to it. This is the video where he goes to his favorite word, nasty. Let's take a look at the video.
Very nasty. To one of the reasons that surprised me, she was probably nastier than even Pocahontas to Joe Biden. She was very disrespectful to Joe Biden, and it's hard to pick somebody that's that disrespectful.
good old Donald. We can, you know what? We can count on him to be him, right?
Yeah.
So when you see that video, Dominique, like, what do you think?
Well, I played Janet Jackson nasty on my show yesterday in honor of that. Because as I say, Mr. Prima, if you're nasty, I mean, he's the nasty one. And why is he suddenly so concerned about people being mean to Joe Biden? I mean, he's been talking smack about Joe Biden, since Joe Biden was vice president. I think that it's disingenuous, it's sexist, it's silly, it's immature. And, there are racial and sexist, I'm not even going to say undertones, sirens
Yeah.
going off.
Yeah, they used to talk about dog whistles. Now we can
Yeah.
talk about, dog shouts and screams.
Exactly.
Longer trying to code it. He's not trying to sugarcoat it. He's not trying to, slip it in under the radar. He's just coming out full force, making these
Yes.
kinds of racist statements. And that nasty thing. One, we have to recognize Donald Trump's vocabulary is really, 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 really small.
True.
And he has like 10 words or so that he just repeats all the time. And nasty is one of them. And when I saw Harris and Biden make their first appearance together, I was, it reminded me of when we would see Obama and Biden give speeches and the breadth of knowledge that they, displayed and how they talked to us as if we were educated, mature adults. And not like we're kids on a playground where we call each other nasty or, we kind of whine and do those things that bullies do. So we're going to hear a lot of it. So we just have to get ready for it because unfortunately he doesn't have a lot of words. And nasty happens to be one of them. But he also, talked about her being mean in relationship to how she interrogated Brett Kavanaugh when he was, being drilled about his position on the Supreme Court. And for us, and for even the Biden team, it was because of her skillful prosecutorial takedown of Kavanaugh that she is in this position. So I don't know, when you see again these mean comments by Donald Trump, what are you thinking, Dominique?
Well, to me, mean is another, I guess, dog whistle or dog siren, because he's bringing up the angry Black woman stereotype. And that really bugs me because that tends to stick. It's one of those things that has been used to immobilize us on so many fronts when we're righteously angry and our anger is justified, or whether we're not angry at all and we're just being tough and doing our job. As Senator Harris has showed, she is a very competent prosecutor, and I am waiting for that vice presidential debate. I am waiting to see her takedowns because she has a big vocabulary and she doesn't have to name call. She can prosecute the facts.
Yeah, and that's so important. When the facts are on your side, you just stick to the facts. They've been doing that in the last couple of days. And when you don't have the facts, we say as lawyers, then you kind of throw anything up on the wall to see what will stick. And that's clearly what's happening. And talking about throwing things up on the wall, birther, we thought it was over, right?
Yeah.
We thought with Obama out of office, we would never have to talk about, where someone was born and if they are, legitimate U.S. citizens. But it's back. I want to play another video for you and get your take on the other side.
To run for vice president because she was an anchor baby, I hope. Do you or can you definitively say whether or not Kamala Harris is eligible, meets the legal requirements to run as vice president?
So I just heard that. I heard it today that she doesn't meet the requirements. And by the way, the lawyer that wrote that piece is a very highly qualified, very talented lawyer. I have no idea if that's right. I would have assumed the Democrats would have checked that out before she gets chosen to run for vice president. But that's a very serious. You're saying that they're saying that she doesn't qualify because she wasn't born in this country.
No, she was born in this country, but her parents did not. The claims say that her parents did not receive their permanent residence at that time.
I don't know about it. I just heard about it.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, I'm not a lawyer.
Let me set the record straight. Kamala Harris was born in Oakland, California.
Yeah.
So let's just be clear about that. Let's get that off the table. But when you see this old, tired, rehash of questioning someone's legitimacy to run for office because somehow they're not a U.S. citizen. What is that? I know you must have spent hours on your show, Dominique, talking about Obama and this whole birther movement. Are we really going to do that again this time
Well,
around?
I mean, I call it Donald Trump's top 10, greatest racist hits. And that's what he's doing. He's running the hits. He's a little bit confused and off his game because he doesn't know how to come at Senator Harris. But I also think there's another aspect to it. Aside from the straight birther piece, which is not true. I'm from the Bay Area. She's born and raised in Oakland. And last time I checked, Bay Area, Oakland is part of the United States. Even if her parents were here illegally, if you're born here, you're a citizen. Hello. But aside from that, there's this undercurrent, which is saying that if you're a person of color, if you're the daughter or son of immigrants, you are other. And so that even if you have the blue passport, even if you have the birth certificate, you are not a citizen. And I think as African Americans, we're particularly understanding of that because even when we are citizens, dragged here, our ancestors dragged here on slave ships, we still don't get the basic rights and perks of citizenship in this country. And as a result, I think that is really damaging, not just for the factual, wrongness of it, but for the fact that it continues to drive home this point that you are other. You don't belong here. I don't care where you're born.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point because it's not just really getting at her, who he knows she was born in Oakland and he knows she's a United States citizen, that's really not an issue. He's really taking a dig at the immigrant population. And we know he's had problems with immigrants from day one. He's always called out immigrant populations. He's always,
unless he's married to them.
Policies. Let's not forget our first lady who is an immigrant, and there's all kinds of questions about how she became a legalized citizen and her parents, not to even mention just her, but her parents as well. And it's just the hypocrisy that we see in this administration. And we know from Senator Harris, we know she's a fierce competitor and we know she's prepared. We know the team is prepared. We know the Biden team is prepared to fight back against these sexist and racist attacks that are being made against her. So I'm not too worried about them. We talk about them because they are in the news, but I think the Trump team has not met a team as formidable as Senator Harris and Joe Biden, and they are scrambling. They just don't know what to do. So now it's throwing any and everything up against the wall and see what sticks. And so far, nothing is sticking. I want to move on to Donald Trump Jr. because, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And Trump Jr. has an issue with the newest edition of Mattel's most popular doll, Barbie. And this is voter Barbie. So when most of us read the news that Barbie launched her 7th campaign for president, that the new Barbie candidate was an African American, that she had dark skin, that she had curly hair, that she had, 2 members on her campaign team, that she had a voter. You get this whole incredible package for $39. Most of us were thrilled because now girls can see themselves, in the dolls that they play with as the next leaders of this country. And with the whole package came this online material about voting, about, civic engagement, about politics. So a great way to teach girls and boys about the importance of leadership and about dreaming big. But not so for Donald Trump Jr. I don't even know why this grown man cares about this doll, but he came out with this really ridiculous tweet that somehow, because she was wearing a "I voted" sticker and had a ballot in her hand, that there was something nefarious about it. Suggesting that Barbie, first of all, was Democratic and that she was engaged in some kind of voter fraud issue. So again, Dominique, when you see Trump Jr. going after Barbie, who we love, how does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel, actually really amused because he's a joke. And, we always talk about how Donald Trump, the president, would say anything. But really, Donald Trump Jr. is the uncensored version of the uncensored president. So I think, it's ridiculous. It's stupid. Really, this is what you have time to do is tweet about a Barbie. But at the same time, he doesn't even realize the worldwide impact. I've spent a lot of time in Africa. It's harder to find Black dolls there than here. So typically when we go, we bring them. When Kamala Harris was selected to be vice president, I got a WhatsApp from my friend who's a radio personality in Ghana saying, wow, a Black woman, an African American woman. And so that Barbie, resonates around the world, even if you don't get it, Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah. And they're probably going to be really angry because I can imagine that right now Mattel is, laying the groundwork to introduce a Kamala Harris Barbie, particularly if, the Biden Harris ticket is successful in November. I would venture to say the first Black female vice president gets her own Barbie. So the Trump team better get ready because they're not only going to have generic voter Barbie, they're probably going to have VP, Madam VP Harris Barbie on the shelves maybe as early as this December. So maybe we put a little bug in the ears of the folks over at Mattel to start working on that in case they haven't already done so. Suburban Housewives, you know any, Dominique?
Not sure. If they are, they're probably men.
All right. You know some mom wives that are at home taking care of the kids. Well, some reason Donald Trump has been targeting or trying to target suburban female voters. And he thinks the way to do so is to, harken back to this era of what he calls suburban housewives. And he's talking about, ending this low income housing program and preventing low income individuals from, and he uses the word invading their neighborhoods. And this tweet, again, so offensive, comes the day after Biden has selected Senator Kamala Harris. He's talking about suburban housewives as if, we're in the era of June Cleaver and, leave it to Beaver. I don't know if anybody's told Donald Trump that he should turn on Bravo because housewives have a whole new look. And housewives, I found it appropriate to show him that housewives are, glamorous, gorgeous, beautiful. They're not running around with aprons and vacuums in their hand.
Well, and not only that, Attorney Martin, the fact is for an American president to be that out of touch with what's happening demographically is amazing because a lot more people of color, lower income people are moving to the suburbs, more affluent. The people he's trying to protect, a lot of them now are moving to the cities because they want the urban experience, they want the craft beer and the cool restaurants. And so what's happened now is, flight in the opposite direction. People are going back into the cities and people of color, the poor are being pushed out to the suburbs. So to think that a sitting president could be that out of touch with the demographic movement of his constituency is pretty embarrassing, I think.
Yeah, and I know that you know Cory Booker, Senator Cory Booker, because your brother is now mayor of Newark, and that was the seat that Cory Booker held before he went to the U.S. Senate. And in that tweet, he actually, he misspells Cory's name. So not only is he out of touch with the demographics, he's also doesn't know how to spell, which is not surprising. But he's talking about Cory because Cory, as Senator Booker, as we know, has been out front on housing discrimination and ending housing discrimination. And Trump is touting that he ended this Obama era regulation that made it easier for there to be the development of low income housing in, the suburbs. And, talk to us about Newark and what your brother has done and what Senator Booker did in terms of, making sure to the extent possible that housing discrimination that kept African Americans and people of color out of suburbs, how they have reversed some of those laws to now, as you say, make the suburbs open to everybody.
Well, for one thing, Senator Cory Booker, you're right. He was the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. Now my brother Ras Baraka is the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. And I love that they have endorsed each other and supported each other as two young Black politicos with very, very bright futures. And I think the other thing that distinguishes both of them is that they have been able to be pro-development in the sense of bringing new opportunities, new stores, even new, residential development into Newark. Newark is hot, right? But put in place policies that would help make sure that the gentrification doesn't push the original residents out. And, my brother has done some innovative things like helping small businesses, local businesses to buy their buildings so that they don't get pushed out when the property values go up in that zip code. So like the city might purchase the building and then offer it back to the small business on a very low interest loan. Innovative programs like that so that we can enjoy the benefits and improvements that come with development without, wiping out entire African American, Latino, and other, low income communities. And I know that he's been a partner with Cory Booker in pushing for those kind of programs. And I know that, the president is way, way off base attacking Booker, because Booker has been very development friendly, but at the same time, very engaged in making sure that he looks out for the residents, longtime residents of these neighborhoods.
How long has your brother been the mayor of Newark, Dominique?
I think it's year 6, might be year 5. He's in his second term. I should know that, I know, but yeah, he's in his second term, and he won overwhelmingly, close to 80% for reelection. And I'm looking forward to seeing, where Senator Booker will go and where Mayor Baraka, maybe Senator Baraka, when
Yeah,
When
there's some
Senator
rumblings.
Booker becomes, whatever,
Governor,
President
yeah,
Booker, Governor Booker, or goes into the cabinet of the Biden administration.
yeah, that's what's so exciting right now, because one of the things that Biden talked about when he had this expansive list of women on the potential list for VP was building out that new bench of Democratic leaders, younger, diverse, and there weren't any men on that list, but he's talked about bringing up not just women but men too, who are going to play a key role in his administration and opening those doors. So you're right. Your brother, now mayor of Newark, may be senator from New Jersey, may be governor of New Jersey. Cory Booker may be governor of New Jersey.
Housing secretary.
Yes, secretary in the cabinet. So this is such
Yeah.
an exciting time, because we can see, individuals like your brother, who's the mayor now, and Senator Booker, really the doors opening to them, and seeing them play at the national level, really key leadership roles. And I think one of the things that Donald Trump doesn't understand when you look at that tweet and having this conversation about the suburbs is what Obama did, what your brother is doing in New Jersey, what Senator Booker has been about, what Senator Harris has been about, is affordable housing. So this isn't just low income housing. This is affordable housing. If you live in California, affordable housing could mean you make $150,000 a year and you still need assistance because housing isn't affordable. So we really have to fight against this notion that somehow they're bad people who can't afford their housing, because in California, you can have a really good 6-figure job and still not be able to afford housing because the cost is just so unaffordable for so many Americans. And again, just a way he uses to try to divide us between the us and the thems, and not realizing that the thems are like 99% of this country, right?
Right, right. And that's such a great distinction to Ariva between affordable housing and low income housing. I mean, I think there's plenty of good people that are working minimum wage jobs that need low income housing. And there are plenty of people in 6 figures, which is hard to understand if you're in other parts of the country. But if you're in LA, you might be looking at an $800 utility bill. You might be looking at $5,000-6,000 a month in rent, and that is not a palatial mansion. That's a small apartment. So it's all about proportionality. That's one thing, and the other thing is affordable housing has to be affordable for the residents of a community. So the people that deliver our groceries, wait our tables, the people that drive Lyft and Uber, those folks have to be able to afford to live in the cities that they serve. And if they can't, we have an unsustainable economic model, period.
Yeah. And he uses those words again, the dog whistle, the dog scream. They're all racist tropes. And the Liberty Project, this group of former Republicans, independents, and people who just care about this country, who are working to get Joe Biden elected. I think they put it best. They tweeted out that, what, this is just a sad, racist old man. I just love how the Liberty Project, they hold nothing back. They just bring it.
Yeah.
And they've been so effective so far. So the other thing I think Donald Trump will learn, hopefully as we talked about, the suburbs look like me, they look like you, They are not, the June Cleavers of the world. It's a much more diverse demographics. And there are people, I read a report that said one of the reasons Senator Harris was so high on the Biden list is that she really is attractive to the demographic in the suburbs of those professional women, not, the women with the vacuum and the apron, but the doctors, the lawyers, the architects, the school teachers, the judges, the working women that live in suburban communities, particularly around those swing states. She polls very well with those women who identify with her because they are working, they're juggling home, they're juggling school, and they tend to be much more liberal and liberal to moderate than I think Trump understands, because they are people dealing with real issues, childcare. We talked about affordable housing, but affordable childcare is such a big issue. You're a mom, you know what that's like. I'm a mother. We know how expensive childcare is. So those are issues that women in the suburbs, as well as the cities, care a great deal about.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. And I think the issue of childcare right now during pandemic takes a much larger role because we are trying to juggle school at home and work. And I feel like a lot of women, especially the professional women you're referencing, but any working mom is trying to figure out how to make it happen. And having a woman on the ticket who has that experience, as a stepmom and as an advocate for women, working women, really, I think women are going to say that might make a difference in my life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to talk about another woman who's made a lot of headlines recently. She's a Georgia Republican who has made blatantly racist statements and expressed her belief in the baseless conspiracy theory called QAnon. She won a primary runoff and is all but certain to win a seat in Congress this November. Her name is Marjorie Greene. She won 57% of the vote in Georgia's heavily Republican 14th congressional district. I don't know if you've seen some of the statements she's made, but she made a statement that generations of Black and Hispanic men have been held down by being in gangs and dealing drugs, not by anything white people have done. She called members of the Black Lives Matter movement idiots. And she said that the most mistreated group of people in this country are white males.
Yeah, well,
She
that's
won, and she didn't just win, she won with
they
57%
won.
of the vote. What
Yeah.
does that tell us about our country?
Well, the QAnon piece is really telling about what's happening to the Republican Party right now because QAnon is very, very fringe. I mean, it's sort of what would have been considered borderline crazy, maybe 8 years ago, and now is entering the mainstream of the Republican Party. It's incels and guys who want to feel sorry for themselves, because they're white, and people that are making up excuses. People that think that there's a deep state conspiracy against Donald Trump and that Donald Trump, they think, is playing three-dimensional chess, not checkers, and that all of these things that he's doing are going to come to this blazing victory, and so many kinds of strange theories. They think he's sending them secret signals. This is what we have happening in the Republican Party. And I think some mainstream Republicans are scared of this too, because it really does illegitimize them and their party. But as long as Donald Trump continues to embrace this woman, they are being held hostage by the president in embracing her as well.
Yeah, and just for anyone that doesn't know just how far out and, as you said, fringe QAnon is, that they really believe that the world is controlled by this elite, secretive, satanic, group, that people that support the Democratic Party, particularly Barack Obama, Joe Biden, that they're involved in child sex trafficking rings, that they're pedophiles, and I've even seen uh, young African Americans on Facebook and other social media platforms posting some of these theories. I saw a young woman posting that Barack Obama is a pedophile, that he's involved in child sex trafficking, and these theories, are coming out of this QAnon. Many of the groups, there are hundreds and thousands of them on Facebook. I think someone said there are like 3,000 plus groups and they have millions of followers. And how are we going to fight against? How does a young Black woman find herself saying that Barack Obama is a pedophile and involved in child sex trafficking? How do we fight against that,
Well, a
Dominique?
couple of things, Ariva. I mean, number one, we're going to have to be more sophisticated. We're going to have to really check sources. We're going to have to reiterate this over and over again to our kids and our friends. And then remember that that young woman that you saw on Facebook or wherever it was might not have even been a young woman at all. She could have been a troll factory in Romania that grabbed a young woman's picture. But the other thing is, I think that there's a lot of people looking for answers, right? They want the secret key to the, you know, to the American empire. They want to know the dirt behind the throne. But here's the thing, there's plenty of dirt without making up crazy stuff like QAnon. Like if you want to know real, you know, dirt on, you know, American capitalism or our system of government, you don't have to go that far out. But I think this desire to know the secrets has led. I mean, I've seen progressives posting things online that have QAnon, and I'm like, do you even know who QAnon is or who Q is? And my suspicion is that they really don't. But it sounded cool. I think the whole paranoia around the you know, the pandemic, the coronavirus, the vaccine, all the conversation about Bill Gates, it appeals to people that, you know, don't trust our government, that maybe don't believe in vaccinations or mainstream medicine, that are mistrustful of the very wealthy, and rightly so, right? But maybe for the wrong reasons. And so, you know, fact check, fact check, fact check, consider the source, follow the money. That's what I keep saying. And many times I am able to convince my progressives and other friends that, you know, you're going down the wrong path here.
And you raise a good point about we don't know on social media. We know there's Russian interference. We know that foreign governments are involved in this election process. We know that they're particularly targeting what they believe to be vulnerable populations, people that they can, you know, divide. They've targeted Black Lives Matter supporters. We saw that in the 2016 election, trying to convince them that they shouldn't vote. We've seen these memes pop up even now saying basically, you know, the country's screwed, no, nothing matters, no one cares about you, and really trying to drive a wedge. And we're starting to see that. We saw that with Harris. You know, I was a part of her presidential campaign, and we saw, you know, so much misinformation about her record as a prosecutor, and that being weaponized against her. And we're starting to see that again now. You know, some, you mentioned progressives, there's some members even of the Democratic Party who want to dwell on what her record of 15, 20 years ago and somehow suggest that that disqualifies her. But a lot of it, and it's been proven, a lot of that information was misinformation that was a part of these, you know, campaigns to undermine our election. I worry though about people who aren't going to check, fact check. I worry about people who don't read a whole lot. They don't watch, you know, credible news sources. They get all of their news from those, you know, right wing conservative, you know, newspapers, news outlets that, quite frankly, you know, congratulated this woman. Even Donald Trump said she's strong on everything. So to that person who's, you know, they're just in that silo, how do we, you know, break down some of those walls?
Well, I think, you know, what you're doing, streaming your show online, I think talking to friends, whether it's the barbershop, the home, pushing back, not just letting people slide with things that they say, challenging people on social media. I think we have to create our own talking points because people pick up on the talking points that they're getting. You know, we saw the massive Romanian troll farm that was churning out these supposed Black accounts to divide our community. So I think we have to provide people with counterpoints, you know, because people want to post clever things. They want to seem smart. Well, look, I'll give you a list of things. Copy everything I say. I don't care. Copy my jokes, copy my talking points. We've got to go viral too. We've got to raise awareness. And I think, you know, we also have to be savvy because just like you can be catfished or blackfished, you know, you can be politically fished with a person and or an organization that is not real. It is only there to manipulate you. And so if you want to read between the lines and get to the real conspiracy, you've got to look at that. We cannot be gullible.
Yeah, and that's a really good point about we have to produce the kind of content, the accurate content that helps people, know what's real and what's not. Right after Black Lives Matter, I started posting some reading lists on my Instagram page. And I was really shocked at how many people said to me, thank you. I didn't know what to read. I wanted to know more. I wanted to educate myself more about African American history, about the history of slavery in this country. And they were happy to have, from a trusted source, someone that they follow, someone that they trust, that kind of information. So I think you're right about that. We have to keep pushing out, that good content, that accurate content, to give people some place to go where they can, get anchored and really get good information. We're talking a lot about Black Lives Matter in this country right now. We know that it's one of the largest protest movements probably of all times. And what might have been, just relegated to the Black community now is accepted amongst 60-70% of all Americans. And you really can't drive down the street in LA without seeing a Black Lives Matter billboard or on the side of a building. You can't go on social media without seeing some big company posting their Black Lives Matter statement. But some of the protesters, the ones that have been out on the front lines fighting for, racial equality, they are in a lot of trouble right now. There's a young woman in Salt Lake City who could face up to life in prison if convicted for splashing red paint. You can see this red paint in this photograph, and smashing windows during a protest. She's been charged with 5 felony counts and a gang enhancement. They are analogizing these protesters to criminal, gang activity, and they've given her a gang enhancement on some of these charges. And, even though the prosecutor has suggested that this is going to be, pled down, she's not likely to see any jail time, this woman was forced to resign, or, quite frankly, she was terminated from her job because she was, arrested and charged. What do you think about, these protesters that put their lives on the line when they go out to protest? And we get to sit at home and say Black Lives Matter, but these people are facing real consequences. There's this young lady, you're looking at Tiana, she's in San Luis Obispo. She also faces 15 years for organizing a protest, and a window was smashed on a car, and now she's facing criminal charges.
Yeah, but that case in San Luis Obispo is a perfect example, because that car tried to run her down, and she moved her arm or hit it with the flag that she was holding. She didn't go after the car to beat it up. He was trying to kill her. And yet they're prosecuting as if the driver of the car that tried to kill protesters is the victim, and the protester who merely lashed out at a car that was careening towards her is somehow the aggressor. And we talk about San Luis Obispo and parts far flung, but the fact is these kind of prosecutions happen in Los Angeles as well. And I think this is one of the places where those of us who are not going to go to every single march, whether it's because you're in a vulnerable population or you're working too much or whatever the reason, we can be effective. We need to call our city attorneys, we need to call our district attorneys and push back on this, because this is ridiculous. People are exercising their right to protest, to assemble. Now, of course, if you shoot someone or something, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, though, is this very aggressive prosecution, which is happening a lot, even in supposedly democratic, supposedly progressive cities, where people are, lawmakers and others are saying how much they support Black Lives Matter and the anti-racist movement on the one hand, and then on the other hand, going after the very people that are making this change possible and throwing the book at them. They're losing their jobs, they're getting criminal records, they're getting tied up in court. That is ridiculous, and we need to put pressure on that to not happen. And I think the public outcry makes a big difference. And, I just want to add, to bring two of your points together, Attorney Areva Martin, is that, for people that are relitigating the past of Kamala Harris, and, there's plenty of things that the senator has done that I don't agree with. I tend to be to the left of her, but I am supporting her wholeheartedly, going all out to get her in the White House right now. Why is it that we as the American people are allowed to evolve? A year ago, the support for Black Lives Matter was nothing like it is right now. Now we're at like 2/3, but yet we expect Kamala Harris 10 years ago to be where she is right now. America has a more progressive outlook The Democratic Party certainly does, under the influence of Bernie Sanders, AOC, Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Waters, and more. But yet we want to judge Harris for where she was 10 years ago or even 5 years ago when none of us are there. So I feel like we need to allow her to evolve, just like we allowed President Obama to evolve, and just like our nation has evolved, is particularly in the area of Black Lives Matter.
No, those are excellent points. And people do, they take a snapshot of your life to fit whatever argument they're making at that time, right?
Right.
They want to use that snapshot as somehow evidence or proof of their particular point. But you're right. The Democratic Party, and thanks to Bernie Sanders, he's moved the party, to the left of where it was. Universal health care was considered radical when he started talking about it. And now, when they roll out the platform at the convention next week, we should expect to see some form of universal health care, single payer, as a part of the Democratic platform. And so, yes, Senator Harris has evolved, and she will continue to evolve. And that's why the Black Lives Matter protest is so incredibly important. It's because of that protest that made this moment happen. Not to say that she wouldn't have been selected by Biden but for those protests, but it is 100% guaranteed certain that it was because of this moment created in many ways by Black Lives Matter that she rose to the top of that list, and that there were other African American women at the top of that list. So we owe a great deal of gratitude to those protesters, and we should be out there doing everything we can to make sure that they are not, charged with these bogus accounts, felony accounts, gang enhancement for exercising their First Amendment rights is absolutely ridiculous. And any prosecutors that go after these protesters on these kinds of charges, we should go after them, plain and simple.
Yeah.
They're elected officials and they serve at the pleasure of the people that elect them, and we should be holding them accountable. This young girl talked about her mental state, not being able to sleep. She's 20 years old. She organized a protest, got 300 people out, and now she finds herself in the criminal justice system. And that's why kudos to the celebrities that have come forward, that are championing her cause, that are speaking out, in favor of her. And hopefully that kind of public pressure will cause these charges to be dropped in their entirety.
Yeah, and also to the people that, Black Lives Matter voters, that makes a difference with Kamala Harris, being chosen, but it also makes a difference in all of these policies. It puts teeth behind what Bernie Sanders started. Bernie Sanders doesn't exist without the young people that supported him. And it's these Generation Z and Generation Y voters and activists that are pushing all of America to a more humane and progressive direction. And I think, I always say this, but if we would have been marching the way we are right now, when President Barack Obama would have been in office, he could have delivered much more for the progressive agenda and certainly for the Black community than he was able to do up there fighting by himself.
Absolutely. And we're going to move on to talk about one of my favorite artists, Cardi B. But I just want to say one of our viewers, Diane, made an excellent point. Thank you, Diane and Howard, for your points that, this election, we're in emergency mode right now. We're because on your show, the other day, we were talking about voting, and I said we better be prepared to stand in line. And you said, well, we can vote by mail, but as we have seen over the last couple of days, there is a systemic effort being made by this White House to dismantle the post office and to prevent people from exercising their right to vote by using mail-in ballots. So we've got to make sure people are incredibly educated about what's going on in their local communities with their post offices. And I think we've got to demand a lot more from Congress. They went home on a break. I'm really unhappy about that. Amazing. It's just like, we can't take a break. This is the election of a lifetime. We need to be holding public hearings with the head of the postal service. We need to have cameras inside post offices exposing to the world what Trump and his administration is doing to dismantle the post office. And we need to be making sure that local election offices are going to have drop boxes in every city, every county, so that people don't have to rely on the U.S. Postal Service because he could effectively just decide to shut it down. And that's the fear. He's so afraid of losing, and the poll numbers look so poorly right now. He will do anything. And it's important to note, and I always say this to people as a lawyer, Trump isn't just facing the election of his life. Trump is facing criminal investigations that
Thank
are.
you.
So when he walks out the White House, he's not just walking off into the sunset. He's walking dead smack into criminal investigations that are happening right now in New York that could land him in jail. So he is even motivated, beyond motivated, to stay in the White House for the next 4 years, if nothing else, just to ride out this time when these criminal investigations are happening. And we better wake up and realize this guy is going to do everything. He's going to cheat, cheat,
Yeah,
cheat.
absolutely. I mean, I really think we have to act like we're losing. I don't care what the polls say. I don't care how much enthusiasm there is around Kamala Harris or, the progressive agenda or, Joe Biden or whatever. We have got to act like we are losing every day. We've got to take this across the finish line, with our all out sprint. And I agree. I wish that Congress would stay in session. I wish that they would get this done for the American people. Our emergency room nurses don't get to take a break. The doctors don't get to take a break. The food delivery service workers for Postmates, they don't get to take a break. So I feel like, this needs to happen. I understand the president is obstructing this because he doesn't want to give money to the post office. So he'd rather you starve, get evicted from your apartment, and shut down the entire mail carrying system for our country than lose an election. But we, the people, do have the ability to push our lawmakers into action. I wish we could sue the Postmaster General and make him stop these, deployment changes that are slowing down the mail. Why can't we sue? I mean, why do we just have to investigate?
And we should start to see legal actions. We should be filing for temporary injunctions. We should be going into court, using the court system to try to prevent the slowdown of the mail, the dismantling of machines that sort the mail. All of those efforts should be underway right now, not in September, not in October, but today in August. We should have a full court press in terms of what we do to stop Donald Trump from dismantling the Postal Service. And even as okay, let's talk about what we can do. We hope Congress comes back early, but even as individuals, we can go in the post office and we can start reporting as individuals what we see happening in our own local post offices. We can start reporting how long it takes us to get our medication that comes through the mail, how long it's taking us to get other, vital things that we receive through the mail. Let's start posting that on social media, and let's start, a social campaign around preventing Donald Trump from dismantling the post office. So we know we have a lot of power, and we know social media is incredibly powerful. So if you start saying, I got this piece of mail that was postmarked 10 days ago, it just arrived at my house. This is how slow the mail is. We start seeing more veterans. We start seeing more of we start posting our grandparents' mail coming in 5, 6, 7 days late. I think we can really get the attention of Congress and get them to take some actions to prevent this massive cheating that Donald Trump is engaged in. Okay, I got to talk about Cardi B before I let you go. Oh my God. She says she has no regrets asking Kylie Jenner to be in the new WAP music video. Despite fan outrage, we know this video has gotten over 90 million views. Cardi says it's all about female sexuality and women empowerment. But writer and producer Danielle Young called out how different Kylie Jenner's cameo is from Normani's. She commented that the clip of the singer Normani dancing, she was putting in work. She says all Kylie did was walk down the hall and open a door in a cat suit. Ooh, so what do you think, Dominique? Or, is Kylie, is this too much shade for Kylie? Or is this, Black women saying we're tired of Kylie Jenner and the whole clan misappropriating Black culture?
Okay, well, there's a lot to unpack right there, Areva. But I think that, I understand the critique. I am pretty tired of the Kardashians myself. Not because I don't admire their business acumen, I do. Not because they don't have charisma and beauty, which they do, but because they do appropriate Black culture and at the same time belittle Black women, upon occasion. I think that is a point well taken. On the other hand, Cardi B is a rapper and she's also a stripper, and she's doing what strippers do. Megan Thee Stallion is an Instagram pinup girl who's a rapper, and she's doing what Instagram pinup girls do: show their butt, tweak, surprise, surprise, twerk, tweet, wear pasties, and it's all good because that's their gig. That's what they do. What does Kylie Jenner do for a living? She stands around and pretends to be a self-made woman, even though she had millions and millions of dollars to launch her brand. It is what it is. Is there a double standard for Black women and others? Absolutely and obviously. But if you go and watch a stripper's video, don't be surprised if she strips.
Well, CeeLo Green said, he was highly critical. He said the lyrics are too explicit. He says, what happened to nuancing the lyrics? I don't know. CeeLo, does he have a point, or is he just a hypocrite?
Yeah, well, I don't know what's up with CeeLo. I could tell you some things about CeeLo myself right now that I don't want to go there. But let me just suffice it to say, I've met him several times. I've interviewed him several times. Well, I could say he borderline stalked me at one point, and I don't think he has any room to talk. Okay, let me just put it there. Now, if you're looking to Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion for your political, consciousness, that could be problematic. I'm not, a prude. If I want political guidance, I'm gonna go, to maybe, Ilhan Omar or Michelle Obama or Connie Rice, Angela Davis. If I want twerking, I'm going to go to Cardi B. I just don't let her live. You know what I mean? And CeeLo, don't you have something more important to do? Are you registered to vote?
Ben Shapiro got in on it too, the conservative pundit Ben Shapiro, and he said that they're disgusting. I'm just over these guys. I really don't.
What Black woman does Ben Shapiro?
Go somewhere, sit down, and shut up. Let's just call it like it is.
There you go.
They have been talking about women's body parts in rap songs since the inception of rap music. They've, made millions and millions of dollars calling women the B word, the W word, every word you can imagine. They called us. They've talked about, our most intimate body parts, and they've made money doing it. So, if Cardi B wants to talk about her WAP and wear her pasties and roll around in the dirt with a snakeskin, whatever, how dare these guys? How dare them? I just was like, really? Are you really going to now get religion? Are you going to get,
especially these are the same guys that are caping for a president who talks about grabbing women by the private parts? Number one. Number two, have they ever seen a Black woman they really and truly liked? Maybe Candace Owens. But I mean, and number three, these are always the guys that want to take this big puritanical stance, but behind closed doors, they're the biggest perverts. And
Jerry Falwell Jr. Let's start with him.
Zip up your pants. I mean, that it's just Ben Shapiro has no love for Black women. Period. There's nothing we could do. He hates Michelle Obama. He hates Cardi B. So I rather, work on electing Kamala Harris for vice president, Congresswoman Karen Bass for Speaker of the House, Susan Rice for Secretary of State. I can go on. That's where my priority is. And maybe I'll be listening to Cardi B while I do it.
I think your point is so well taken. Cardi B, and to her credit, let's talk about what she has done. She sat down in a conversation with Bernie Sanders when Bernie Sanders was still in the primary, for the Democratic presidential ticket. She had a conversation with him, and she talked about wanting to learn more about politics, be more educated about politics, and use her platform in a way to influence people to get more civically engaged. So I got to give her a lot of credit. You're right. She was a stripper, but she's turned that into a, multi-million-dollar career using the same lyrics that guys have used for decades. And now that women, are reclaiming their power, taking their power and making, millions using those same lyrics. This video's gotten like 90 million plus views. Now the men are the loudest in the room to criticize the women. We're not there for it. We're not going to have it. We're not going to allow it. And, I love, let me tell you, this is how much I'm into Cardi B right now. Are you watching P-Valley on Stars?
Yeah. I've seen it. But look, here's the thing, Ariva. I don't know if I can co-sign on WAP being women's empowerment, but they're millionaires and that's how they make their money. And can you or I or the critics honestly say that if Kylie Jenner showed up and wanted to do your show, you wouldn't do it with her millions and millions and millions and millions of followers? It's smart business, it's marketing. Is it women's empowerment? I don't know, but it's definitely
And let
capitalism.
me make the argument. Let me make the case for why it's women empowerment. And that can mean so many different things to so many different people. The lyrics are explicit, no doubt about it. I mean, I can't even say what it means. It's, it's WAP, look it up. But it's a video made by women that highlights women and their sexuality. Yes, that's what it is. And for a lot of women, young girls out there who aspire to be rap artists, who aspire to have control over their own image, over their own lyrics, they then look at this video and say, I too can do this. I can be in a, and I don't have to be controlled by a man. I don't have to be twerking in a video with a man smacking me on my ass, which is what most of those videos were, before you had rappers, like Nicki Minaj and Lil Kim. And if you love rap music, I don't see how you can criticize this video, but not criticize the ones that we've watched over and over and over by men that are equally explicit and in many ways misogynistic. So I'm there for Cardi and the video. Kylie, I get your point. Yeah, you're not likely to turn Kylie down. I think I'm over Kylie, but I don't have a problem. And I think Cardi's point about why she was in the video made a lot of sense. Look, our husbands are friends. Our kids go to each other's baby parties, showers, our families. I like the girl. 65,000 people signed a petition online to take her out the video. Danielle has her point. Danielle's point about raising that issue, but I also see Cardi's point, and clearly Kylie is not leaving the video. She's not going anywhere. She's going to remain in that video, and it's going to continue to grow. And conversations like this will help it reach that super platinum star platform. And I think Cardi will continue to evolve. Right? We're talking about
Yeah,
evolving.
absolutely.
And maybe Kylie learns something and maybe she evolves. I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt on this as well. As a young woman, a lot thrown at her, but we're gonna leave open a space for these young women to both evolve and hopefully having our first African-American VP in the White House is the pathway for that evolution.
And trust and believe, I'm pretty sure all of the women in that video are going to find different ways to support Kamala Harris for vice president because they have the dollar power, no matter how they made it rain, to impact the presidential election.
Make it rain. Someone I know wrote a book called Make It Rain. Okay. All right, we are out of time, Dominique. On that note, on that make it rain note, I'm going to thank you so much for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to sit down and talk with you. There's so many topics in the news that we could spend hours and hours, but your insight I value tremendously. Keep raising your voice on KJLH and keep being the conscience of the people in Los Angeles. Thank you for everything you do for our community. And thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Ariva. You're the best.
Okay. Big shout out again to Dominique Dupria. Check her out on KJLH. She is on the front page every morning at 5 a.m. And I am sometimes lucky enough to join her on her show and talk about these big political issues. But she has a fabulous show on KJLH. Make sure you're tuning into it. Big shout out to my production team and our sponsors for today. You can continue to be a part of this conversation. Follow me on all platforms at Ariva Martin. Before I get out, a couple of words to live by. Never, ever underestimate a man or a woman on a mission to change their environment or the world. And more importantly, don't mess with one of the country's biggest sports figures turned media moguls. Remember when Fox host Laura Ingraham told LeBron James to dribble and shut up? Well, there's been an iconic clapback. James just announced a historic collaboration with the LA Dodgers to convert Dodger Stadium into a polling site for the upcoming November election. Through his civil rights foundation, More Than a Vote, The stadium will be the first in the country to be outfitted as a polling site. Dribble that, Laura. Y'all be safe out there. Don't forget to wear your mask. And remember, we are all in this together.